Hello, this is Raheem Hassan here again at Automation Innovation 2014. And I have the opportunity to speak with Pat Geary, the CMO of Blue Prism. Pat, thank you for joining us here today.
Good to see you, Raheem. Thanks for inviting us along.
So, Pat, there's been a lot of buzz in the marketplace and excitement about robotic process automation. We have alliances, press releases, marketing campaigns, right? But one of the comments that you had shared with me earlier today was that not all robotic process automation is created equal. What were you talking about there?
Well, I think it really goes back to the genesis of the idea, and about 10 years ago we developed this term robotic automation to explain what our clients in big enterprises were doing, automating back office processes. And they were doing it in a high transaction integrity environment. That meant what they were really focused on was execution and execution integrity, and making sure that the transaction, whether they were paying a bill, whether they were changing somebody's salary, whatever the process was, that it really was about knowing that the robot was doing the task that you've told it to do. And that's called a deterministic process. And I think what we've seen when we started to engage the outsourcing industry, and in fact the very first paper was from HFS, was from Phil's team in November 2012, when we went and said, hey Phil, we've got this idea of robotic automation, we think it's applicable to the outsourcing industry, would you like to write a paper for us on it? And that's when the sparks went off in HFS's mind that actually robotic automation could transform the industry. Now since then, a lot of the existing tools that have been around for a long time, desktop scripting tools, macros, macro generation technologies, they've rebranded themselves as robotic process automation. And it makes it a little bit harder for customers and outsourcers to understand what really is a robotic platform. And as Charles explained this morning, it is about transaction integrity, and it's about being able to develop a range of processes that are independent of the robots, and that these processes execute with absolute assurity. And that's our background in banking, in healthcare, where highly regulated environments, and that's why you can't put a robot on a desktop.
So it's interesting. One of the questions that we often get from clients here is, well, I'm already doing automation, right? How is this different?
Yeah.
Right? How would you address that?
That's a great question, Raheem. Yeah, automation technology has been around for a while, and you could almost argue that any system of record is doing some level of automation. One of the banks that we work with has 1,000 systems of record, 1,000 different systems doing different jobs. And they have some level of automation. Some of the interstates, if you like, big sort of processes have been automated in tools that are BPMS tools, as called, so Business Process Management Suites. They've been around for 15, 20 years, and they've sort of reached their economic limit of their applicability across all of these different myriads of processes and across all those different kinds of systems. So you've got a computationally explosive problem. You've got lots and lots of processes, and you've got lots and lots of different systems. And to have a system that covers all of those is virtually impossible in an IT-oriented way. So what we've done is develop this idea of robotic process automation platform, which, as you heard from Ascension Health earlier on, gives the business community and the operational teams the power to configure their own pretty complex automations. But because the robot interacts with applications at the GUI level, at the user interface level, and it interacts intelligently with those applications, then the delivery cycles, the deployment cycles, and most critically the cost of that deployment is dramatically cheaper than normal technologies. Now at the other end of that curve, you have desktop automation technologies, desktop unification technologies, which again have been around for many years. And what they've helped is agent productivity. They've helped reduce a call by automating a small piece of what that person is doing in a call center. We're looking at the back office. We're looking at the myriad of people that are doing these end-to-end tasks and saying that whole work should be done by a robot in a data center that's audited and controlled and managed. And so we're trying to build the virtual workforce and not do desktop automation assistance.
Pat, based on what you've seen, right, and I know it's tough to predict these things, but where do you think robotic process automation will be in the next 2 years?
Well, I think firstly, Raheem, there's an enormous opportunity there. There are many, many millions of back office administrative jobs that could benefit from either full or partial automation. And we see that there are two axes. There's decision intelligence and there's execution intelligence. And execution intelligence is making sure that a transaction is executed, and it is executed again and again with consistency, and that's deterministic again. And that's really where we focus, is on the bulk of transactions where, so for instance, if you're in a payroll environment, you don't want a computer system deciding to pay you something different one month just because it decides that's what it's learned from these patterns of behavior. You know, you want it to be absolutely deterministic. So I was involved in a company for many years that used artificial intelligence to detect patterns of potential money laundering and terrorist financing in large-scale bank environments. That's a useful use of unsupervised learning, non-deterministic computing. We believe that the vast majority, maybe as much as 99% of transactions that should be robotized are ones where you need to know the outcome. What our analytics do, we provide the information that the people who are training the robots can then put that decision, that rule, back into the robots. But it's not an automated thing. It just doesn't make its own mind up. So I think there's a lot of confusion with cognitive computing and AI. We're a long way off that being of value. And in fact, the jobs that we're trying to replace, the jobs that we're trying to augment, are the ones that are not good use of human skills. That are just rote, that are repetitive. And our objective is to release people to do the things that they're good at. Talking to people in a call center, problem solving, empathizing with customers. We don't believe that technology should be used in that context. Put technology to help people to do what they can do better.
Great. Pat, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ray.
Appreciate you being here.
Cheers, bye.